All right, y'all. I did want to include an update. This was, an update for the situation happening earlier in St. Louis. This was originally tweeted out, retweeted out by John Keeney, King Vegas himself, who is running for Missouri Senate District 26. You have a chance if you're registered voter in Senate District 26 here for the state Senate in Missouri. You'll have an opportunity to cast your ballot for King Vegas, John Keeney, coming up 2 weeks from tomorrow, November 8th. Check my calendar, make sure that's accurate. November 8th, 2 weeks from tomorrow, you'll have your opportunity to cast your ballot for John Keeney, Senate District 26 here in Missouri. He appeared as a guest speaker during our live stream, Show Me Kick-Ass Democrats, here on the show, and has been a friend and supporter of Cash, Coffee, and Chaos, pretty much since I came across the man. He's also a fellow podcaster as well and fellow musician. You can catch him as the host of the Big Blue Unicorn podcast, wherever you get your podcasts, and of course coming soon to YouTube. I don't stream it myself, but John Keeney retweeted this out. This is from I'll just show you the tweet here. Oh, we'll zoom in and show that to you. So John Keeney tweets out, "No parent or child should ever have to endure or become a victim of gun violence. Pass common sense gun laws today to keep firearms out of the hands of criminals and fund and support our mental health care providers nationwide. Let's prevent tragedies instead of making excuses." And this is the retweet from Debbie Montgomery, of course, from KMOX. She says, "This morning, I was on the air. I was on the air at KMOX News when my daughter began texting me." Can you imagine this? When my daughter began texting me that her school was on lockdown. Sirens, screaming. Then I have to begin talking on the air about the latest school shooting in America. My daughter's school. Jesus Christ. So just for a little extra, I guess not an update, but an update on my understanding of how the story went down, since I was a little bit late to the game here. Just wow. I mean, what else is there to say? Jesus Christ, can you even fucking imagine? Having to go through that, and then having to sit down at, say this job and talk about that very thing live, of course, while you're in the midst of collecting yourself. Fuck me, Jesus. Anyway, so to continue, I caught this article in Associated Press. It's a bit of a slow news day for AP, so we may jump into a couple of different things today. But this certainly grabbed my attention, and I was thinking of a couple of folks I'd really like to speak with about this in the future. So, Emo Dragon, if you're watching, would like to get your take on some of this, because this is all fresh and new to me, yo. Slavery is on the ballot for voters in 5 U.S. states. The fuck? Let's jump in. So Nashville, Tennessee, Associated Press, more than 150 years after slaves were freed in the U.S., voters in 5 states will soon decide whether to close loopholes that led to the proliferation of a different form of slavery, forced labor by people convicted of certain crimes. Oh, boy. Where's this going to go, right? None of the proposals would force immediate changes inside the state's prisons, though they could lead to legal challenges related to how they use prison labor, a lasting imprint of slavery's legacy on the United States. The effort is a part of a national push to amend the 13th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution that banned enslavement or involuntary servitude except as a form of criminal punishment. That exception has long permitted the exploitation of labor by convicted felons, and I can already hear the MAGA people losing their fucking minds. Meanwhile, they're not really big on indictments or showing up to court and all that sort of thing of their heroes. But I digress. The idea that you could ever finish the sentence, slavery is okay, when has to rip out your soul. And I think it's what makes this fight that ignores political lines and brings us together, because it feels so clear. Bianca Tylek, executive director of Worth Rises, a criminal justice advocacy group pushing to remove the amendment's conviction labor clause. Nearly 20 states have constitutions that include language permitting slavery and involuntary servitude as criminal punishments. In 2018, Colorado was the first to remove the language from its founding frameworks by ballot measure, followed by Nebraska and Utah 2 years later. This November, versions of the question go before voters in Alabama, Louisiana, Oregon, Tennessee, and Vermont. Senator Raumesh Akbari, a Democrat from Memphis, was shocked when a fellow lawmaker told her about the slavery exception in the Tennessee Constitution and immediately began working to replace the language. When I found out that this exception existed, I thought, we have got to fix this, and we've got to fix this right away, she said. Our Constitution should reflect the values and beliefs of the state. And, well, we'll leave it at that. I think that speaks for itself. In both directions. Constitutions require lengthy and technically tricky steps before they can be tweaked. Akbari first proposed changes in 2019, the GOP-dominant General Assembly, then had to pass the changes by a majority vote in one 2-year legislative period, and then pass it again with at least 2/3 approval in the next. The amendment could then go on to the ballot in the year of the next gubernatorial election. Akbari also had to work with the State Department of Corrections to ensure that inmate labor wouldn't be prohibited under her proposal. Sure, that was their concern, right? Jesus Christ. Can you imagine how that fucking conversation went? I'm just saying. The proposed language going before Tennessean voters more clearly distinguishes between the two. Slavery and involuntary servitude are forever prohibited. Nothing in this section shall prohibit an inmate from working when the inmate has been duly convicted of a crime. We understand that those who are incarcerated cannot be forced to work without pay, but we should not create a situation where they won't be able to work at all, Akbari said. Similar concerns over the financial impact of prison labor led California's Democratic-led legislature to reject an amendment eliminating indentured servitude as a possible punishment for crime after Governor Gavin Newsom's administration predicted it could require the state to pay billions of dollars at minimum wage to prison inmates. Yeah, this is why sometimes on this channel we just say, fuck Gavin Newsom. God forbid we pay people for, work and things. This is a Democrat, keep in mind. He's not a progressive. He's just a regular old blue donkey guy. So, there's that. Scrutiny over prison labor has existed for decades, but the 13th Amendment's loophole in particular encouraged former Confederate states after the Civil War to devise new ways to maintain the dynamics of slavery. Because they just can't get it out of their system, right? They use restrictive measures known as the Black Codes because they nearly always targeted black people to criminalize benign interactions such as talking too loudly or not yielding on the sidewalk. Right. We still got some of that, proliferating here in the U.S. One interesting discussion that I was a part of on social media was regarding what do they call it? Not nuisance, but not public nuisance, but what do they call it? Where you're overtly, I guess it's like a public nuisance. Anyway, I'll think of it later. Hit me up in the comments. I'll probably think of it by then. Cool story, bro. They use restrictive measures that those targeted would end up in custody for minor actions, effectively enslaving them again. Of course. Because they end up back in the system. They end up back in fucking chains and iron leggings and whatnot. The math works out. Fast forward to today, many incarcerated workers make pennies on the dollar. Which again, Gavin Newsom is not against this. He's for this. Started out there. for when he runs for president in 2024, and everybody wants to, suck his ass like he's a great, progressive fucking rock star, right? Keep the shit in mind. Inmates who refuse to work may be denied phone calls or visits from family, punished with solitary confinement, and even be denied parole. Yeah, that's a thing. Bet you didn't fucking know that. Bet Emo Dragon's back there like, why the fuck didn't everybody know that? And Pierce, I'm watching YouTube, bro. Alabama is asking voters to delete all racist language from its constitution and to remove and replace a section on convict labor that's similar to what Tennessee has had in its constitution. Vermont also boasts of being the first state in the nation to ban slavery in 1777, but its constitution still allows involuntary servitude in a handful of circumstances. Its proposed change would replace the current exception clause with language saying slavery and indentured servitude in any form are prohibited. Oregon's proposed change repeals its exception clause while adding language allowing a court or probation or parole agency to order alternatives to incarceration as part of sentencing. Louisiana is the only state so far to have its proposed amendment draw organized opposition. Well, why ain't Jimmy Swagger doing something about all that? He's got plenty of opportunity to fucking open his mouth, right? Over concerns that the replacement language may make matters worse. Oh, fucking how could they do that? Even one of its original sponsors has second thoughts. Democratic Representative Edmund Jordan told the Times-Picayune, the New Orleans Advocate, last week that he's urging voters to reject it. The nonprofit Council for a Better Louisiana warned that the wording could technically permit slavery again. The fuck? As well as continue involuntary servitude. It almost seems like it would help if we had like federal laws against slavery. Say. Louisiana's constitution now says slavery and involuntary servitude are prohibited except in the latter case as punishment for a crime. The amendment would change that to slavery and involuntary servitude are prohibited, but this does apply to the otherwise lawful administration of criminal justice. How about just slavery and involuntary servitude are prohibited, period? You fucking pay people what they're fucking worth, you fucking scum. Jesus Christ, where's the opposition to that? Republicans who are against paying people what they're worth, who are fucking in jail, or ever for any reason whatsoever, can go fuck themselves. And the fucking Democrats who also are against paying people what they're worth when they're in jail, forcing people, denying their parole, keeping them from seeing family because they're unwilling to fucking work for free or for discounted rates in prison. Those Democrats can go fuck themselves. What is this shit? Why is this even a fucking conversation? Come on, people. Oh my God. This, and you want to wonder why folks are out there screaming to defund the police and all cops are bastards and why we don't trust the court system, right? Yeah. I don't get it. Why would they do that? Why would they make me? You're so mean, Antifa people. What the fuck? Supporters of Jesus Christ, I lost my place. This shit is so fucking dumb. This amendment is an example of why it's important to get the language right when presenting. There you go. This amendment is an example of why it's important to get the language right when presenting constitutional amendments to voters. The nonprofit group said in a statement urging voters to choose no and lawmakers to try again, pointing to Tennessee's ballot language as a possible template. Supporters of the amendment say such criticisms are part of a campaign to keep exception clauses in place. If this doesn't pass, it'll be used as a weapon against us, said Max Parthas, State Operations Director for the Abolish Slavery National Network. The question stands as a reminder of how slavery continues to bedevil Americans, and Parthas says that's reason enough to vote yes. We've never seen a single day in the United States where slavery was not legal, he said. We want to see what that looks like, and I think it's worth it. But again, I would say, why take that route? Why not just abolish the shit in general? Like, don't force people to work. Don't deny their parole because you're not willing to pay them to fucking do manual labor. It's not like they're out there having these people program websites and shit. Okay, they're not prisoners aren't out there fucking coding, and they should be making like $26 an hour, and really they're only making like 15. Okay, they're paying these people like fucking shit dick wages, and expecting the most out of them for manual labor, for picking up shit, for Jesus Christ. I had no idea. I mean, what? You've got to be absolutely fucking kidding me. Let me go back and read this again. Inmates who refuse to work may be denied phone calls. Inmates who refuse to work for garbage fucking pay, or like no pay, may be denied phone calls, may be denied visits from family, may be punished with solitary confinement. Inmates who refuse to work for shit pay may even be denied for parole. Why the fuck is that legal anywhere? And who's the piece of shit who thinks that that's just fucking jolly? I mean, we know Gavin Newsom. I would assume there's a shitload of Republicans who are on board with this as well. Look, folks, I don't know. I don't fucking know. Vote harder. And thank God there's folks out there who are trying to bring this to people's attention. This is something that I was not aware of, that I am now aware of, that I hope that my viewers are now aware of and will pay a little bit more attention to as well. This is why it's important, definitely before the primaries, to concentrate and focus more on progressive candidates who are, well, I mean, fuck, Jesus Christ, who are progressive and who take issues like this, not just with a grain of salt, who aren't looking just to be career politicians, but who are looking to actually make real change in people's lives, who are doing the social work for free in their free time for fun, because it makes them fucking feel jolly. I hate to throw it out there like that, but, Spencer Toder, he done lost his primary election. He's still out there fucking doing wonderful things for the community. It's just a fucking Tuesday to that guy. We need shit like that. People who are willing to put in the work before, put in the work afterward, lose a primary election, and still kick a bunch of ass out in the streets, because the streets need people to be advocating for shit like this. And while the rest of this show I might just be shitting on people for their social failures, the world needs a lot less people doing that. So, kudos to the ones out there doing the real work. Again, extending this invitation out to Emo Dragon, I would love to, maybe discuss something like this, that maybe there's other issues that I'm not aware of that I'm sure you could fucking enlighten me over. So, reach out, and for everybody else, we'll catch you in the next one. Holy shit. Thanks.